joined by our VP of Business Development at Moneris Data Services, Sean McCormick. Sean, thank you once again for joining me this month.
Yeah, my pleasure. Always fun to chat.
Now, last month, I kind of said that we weren't going to look back at 2024 anymore, but there is one last story that is kind of a big deal, and I wanted to talk about it this month, and that's the tax holiday that we're still going through, actually. The Canadian federal government thought to give Canadian taxpayers a break over the Christmas break and to stimulate maybe some spending, that they would give us all a break from federal sales tax. And we have some numbers, at least for the first half of this tax holiday, that can maybe give us a sense of whether that worked or not.
So we looked at the first month, so it's about a 2-month reprieve of the GST in certain categories. And if we look at December 14th to January 15th, overall transaction volume, so that's dollar volume getting pumped through the pipes, our pipes on tax exempt items, that was down 4% across the country. So that tells you that, well, maybe, people were saving that 13%. Maybe there's an effect there. But you got to look at two measures to get the full story. So the transaction count, so the number of transactions, was actually down 1%.
Okay.
So were consumers going out and buying more things, buying more often? Were they stimulating the economy doing that? Our data suggests that they were not. Transaction count was down. Dollar volume was down a little bit more. So consumers maintained course on their normal shopping habits and maybe enjoyed a little bit of savings here and there. But if you're a merchant and you're asking the question, broadly speaking, nationally, in aggregate, did it help support more spending over that span? So far in the first month of our analysis, the answer is no.
That's interesting because, and I'm wondering if some of it is maybe just a communication issue, because I remember just before Christmas going to the mall to buy my daughter a Wicked t-shirt for Christmas and seeing a rack with these shirts marked $10. And that's the price I paid, which was kind of weird. When I walked out of the store thinking I got away with something, only then did I realize, oh yeah, the tax holiday. So I'm wondering if maybe Canadians just weren't aware or forgot that it was happening.
Well, you don't have to go very far to find an accountant in this country that will tell you that tax policy and tax law is incredibly complicated. And maybe this is part and parcel of that. But it was a complicated offer to consumers, is my personal feeling, Al. There were certain things that were exempt and certain things that were not. And when you ask a consumer to think too deeply about a purchase, they won't make the purchase. Like, you go into a car dealership to buy a car, that car salesman wants you to buy that car in an hour. They don't want to give you time to think about it because your brain will go in other directions and you just won't make the purchase. And I think that the same thing holds true for most purchases. And when the government came out and said, well, you're going to save money on this, 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 and this, but all of this over here, I didn't have time myself. I didn't have time to think about that. It was the holiday season. I'm busy trying to figure out how to please the people closest to me with gifts that are applicable to their lifestyles. I didn't have time to think about, well, what was GST exempt and what wasn't. I went into the beer store just a couple of weeks ago, and I paid $44 for a case of beer, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go buy another case of beer. I forgot that beer was included, and I tend to probably over-index on my beer drinking compared with the average 51-year-old Canadian. So I think that maybe consumers had a little bit too much to think about, and they were probably happy to not pay the GST, but they didn't run out and say, okay, I can buy this, 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 and this. All right, I'm going to go and buy those things. That just didn't happen.
And that would be true, obviously, over the holidays, especially because you're not going to adjust how you're shopping. You're going to buy what you need to buy, and there's a pleasant surprise if you saved on that. So I'm wondering, though, in the second half of this tax holiday, whether maybe we will see some people taking more advantage of the tax holiday and spending a little bit more because they can get that tax break.
Well, yeah, I will probably go back to the beer store and buy more beer because I know that it's cheap. In fact, I even floated the idea of stocking up for the summer. I know that we're going to go through a case of beer every couple of weeks, and maybe I should buy 10 cases and put it in the garage. Like, if I can save 13% on alcohol in the summer, then that's a good deal. I should do that. Now, there are categories. One category in particular does stand out as being one where consumers took advantage. And it seems like children's and infant apparel stores did see a noticeable increase in transaction count during the first month of the GST holiday. Their transaction counts were up 8%.
Okay.
That's significant.
Yeah.
On the other hand, hobby, toy, and game stores had a 5% decline in average transaction size, while the transaction count was unchanged. So that didn't spur more spending, but customers were happy to enjoy the savings while they were at the till.
So it'll be interesting to see what the numbers tell us about the second half of this tax holiday. And now we have the tariff story that we're going to probably have to tackle coming up. So looking forward to having you back on next month. And I think we're going to have lots to talk about. Thank you, Sean, for your time this month.
You bet, Al.